Hi everybody, it's Tony. I'm flying solo today. Will is in Chicago filming a movie called Less Than 30 that is kind of awesome. So he's off doing that. I've had my 2 cups of coffee and I'm ready to go. Today I'm going to try and figure out how to get an old outlet out that is really precariously perched and replace it with a new outlet box. And it's tricky because there are multiple layers of everything and don't know how it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a go and just fast forward through most of the boring parts and then tell you what I've had to do to get through it. But wish me luck. So one of the challenges of working on this house is that we've used it as storage for about 1.5 years because we don't have enough storage at our own house, but it's right next door, so we've been using it as storage. This is one of the shelves, one of 3 shelves that used to be in here, and then there's all kinds of stuff over here. So I need to work on this space, so I'm doing this weird juggle thing. So that, of course, you can see all the way over there is wallpaper that we are completely in love with and is going to stay. Everything else is wood paneling that's got to come down, but there you have it. So this is, those are the shelves. Whew. How can I do, camera? Let me see. I'm trying to be a better cameraman. This is the area, believe it or not, there's a fireplace back there. And that right there is the plug that I have to get at in order to start our wiring project. And there is the wallpaper again, in case you needed an additional close-up, because it's I happen to think that it's probably the most awesome wallpaper I've seen in a very long time. So we're going to repair it, fix up the edges that needed some re-gluing and some retouching after, that's probably been there 50 or 60 years. The true test of wallpaper, 50 or 60 years on that wall and it's still there. So I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna start working on the wiring and let's see how I do, because the last time I tried I didn't do very well by myself. We'll see how I do. What I just did was to get the electric and the old electric stuff. It's not, just seemed unsafe. There are a lot of rules that I know are archaic rules that the NEC has left in place, but one of them is that the surface of the box has to be even with the surface of whatever your wall covering is, whether it be drywall or paneling or whatever. And that's because should the wires be out any further, they don't catch anything on fire or spark or whatever. So that was recessed by about 1 inch inside. And it's touching, I should probably say the electric is off. We have no electricity, so there's no worries about that. But it was touching, the wires weren't touching the wooden lath strips underneath the drywall, which is underneath a layer of paneling, but it still didn't look very safe. So this is a sort of a box that is, it's designed so that you can attach it to the lath, so it tightens up against the lath strips in the back. So that little thingy there moves in and out with that little screw so that it kind of anchors itself against the lath in back of the plaster. And one of the rules from the NEC, which is the National, I think it's just called the National Electrical Code books, is that your boxes have to be attached to the structure. I don't know if this is going to pass code. I think that the answer is it's probably not. And we might have to redo it. You see how that screw comes in and out there. So it might not. So we might have to redo it. But I'm hoping that it does, because what I would rather not do is have to cut a hole 1.5 inches over so that I have to repair an 1.5 inches next to a outlet, it's gonna be a pain in the butt. But anyway, the moral to the story is they make these if you have plaster and lath walls and you need to replace the outlets. The outlet box. I think this is called an outlet box. Box, blue, available at the Home Depot and Lowe's. I think this was $2, and it has this little screw that adjusts in and out so that it holds onto the lath inside the wall. And then the outlet goes in here and the wire, whatever. So I've got to try and figure out how to get this outlet that is precariously attached to these lath strips. Doing that now. You can see I got it out. Took a crowbar, a hammer. It wasn't screwed in, it was just held in by these little like ears that are on there. And then this little screw was screwed into the plaster. Not gonna get us anywhere. So, more importantly, this hole is nowhere near big enough for this box to go through. So, though it's big enough in the lath part right here, the plaster and the paneling on the other side of the wall, not so good. I should probably mention what I'm in is the kitchen, and on the other side of this wall is the living room, and this contraption right here is the back side of the fireplace. So I'm gonna go take this thing, this little saw, and I'm gonna see if I can cut through this wall. Let's see how I do. I'm not sure how much of that you could see, but here's a couple of tips. One, when you're working with plaster and lath in an older house, the rule of thumb is two things. One, power tools are pretty much not your friend. And the reason is because as like a jigsaw or a sawzall goes, all it does is rattle the lath back and forth and do more damage than good. Sometimes it works, usually it doesn't. So that's why I was using that little hand saw. Additionally, the boxes that you put in, rule of thumb, 3 lath strips. If you take 3 out, down, up and down, you've got about exactly the right measurement that you need. I say about exactly. It really is very close to the right measurement. And then you just have to get your left and right or horizontal measurement right. And it's pretty straightforward. There are actually some tools out there that help you do it that like mark the wall where it's gonna go and you can cut it out. But if you saw what I did, I used the technique that you do when you're chiseling, and that is to make some horizontal cuts and then try and knock them out like teeth. I mean, you make, you know, little cuts and then knock them out like teeth, and then clean up the edges. Bottom line is, it's done, it fits, and now I gotta see if I can get those little ear flaps to come up and tighten up against the lath. We'll see how that goes. Had to do a little surgery on the wings. This is another lesson in nothing is perfect in an old house. So I had to make the wings a little shorter so they fit the depth of the 16 layers that are on top of this wall in order to make sure that it's flush, and hopefully I haven't wasted too much time and this passes code. I'm gonna go try and put it in again. All right, so it worked. You can see right there how the little wing is standing up and holding up against the back of the lath. Same thing on the bottom. Got to screw it in on the other side, but it worked. I had to do a little surgery, had to get creative. That's kind of the name of the game with this stuff, but it worked. Now, the fun part. And by fun part, I mean drilling holes in the floor through the floor joists to try and get the place wired. Wish me luck.